That charge that comes on in the body is what causes us to go into our trauma, right? Our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It's what causes us to go into our coping skills, and it takes us out of us. It takes us away from ourselves, and it takes us into doing something. And it was a coping skill that we developed in childhood, which was good at the time when we couldn't do anything, but it also keeps us stuck. So as we learn to sit with that charge, we start learning to shift. So I'm going to be honest, in the beginning of my journey, if somebody said sit with the charge, I didn't feel it at first. I was like, I don't have charge. No, it was that I was that unconscious, that I wasn't aware of it. Learning to be in our body and not up in our mind, ruminating and thinking, it's like a dance, and it takes a little bit of time. So for anyone that struggled with that, that's normal. Like we're learning how to be back in our body. Our body at one time was not safe, right? We weren't allowed to be ourselves. We weren't allowed to feel our feelings. And so we left our body. And so coming back into it, in other words, don't shove yourselves, don't get upset with yourselves. If you don't notice things right away, that's completely normal. And Diane says, yes, a few times over the week, it helps so much. And I'm continuing to practice this skill. Yeah, this should be something like I told you guys last week, when I would wake up in the morning and I'd hit my snooze, I would purposely do that to give myself that 10 minutes of just nervous system regulation, feeling what was going on in the body. Because isn't it true that when you've been through trauma, you wake up tasered? It was like I was tasered out of bed. Go, do, got to think, got to do, da, da, da. So we give ourselves that moment to come back into our body. Okay, so we're going to build on what we're learning. So again, it doesn't mean we stop noticing and tracking the charge. We want to get really good at tracking the charge, because as we start tracking the charge and we're able to sit with it, and then some people mentioned the pendulation, and we're able to find another place in our body where there is no charge. When we go back and forth, we're helping our body to balance. And what happens is we're giving our body the space to process the trauma. We don't do the processing. Our body does it, but we have to have the capacity to kind of hold space for what's going on inside so that our body can do it when it's ready. So I encourage you guys to continue to practice that. Carla says, do we practice when we feel a little triggered or just when we feel at ease? So to build capacity, we would start not when we're triggered. Because honestly, if we just sit for a moment and just kind of feel in our body, isn't it true that you'll find a place of tension? You'll find something that's constricted, right? So working with that without being triggered is like going to the gym and picking up weights that are manageable. When we're triggered, now we've got a lot more on us. So we want to build our capacity to do that. Once you can do that regularly, when you're triggered, you can start noticing, where in my body do I notice that trigger? Oh, I feel that constriction in my chest. Notice that and find a place that doesn't feel triggered. What isn't triggered? Oh, my left big toe is not triggered. It could be that small of a piece of your body. And noticing that starts helping your body to have that balance. And since you brought up triggers, it's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about. So emotional flashbacks or emotional triggers are the way that trauma from the past stays alive in the present, right? We can be away from all toxic people. They could be gone from our life for years. And if we are still suffering from emotional flashbacks, we're suffering as if they're there. It feels the same, right?